about that, but maybe she could tell you that. She's also worked as one of the main focal points of our new billing and accounting software. That's called Smart Fusion, if anybody cares. You know, we're still trying to get all of the kinks ironed out with that, but, you know, it's a work in progress. But as well as, she's also worked as, with our change in our printing company for our water bill. She's a great asset to the town, and she's a resource for many of us, myself included. She gets asked many different questions, probably some of them isn't really in her, you know, area, but she still does her best to help whenever called upon. And like I did this before, I always like to ask our coworkers how they can describe their other coworkers. So here's some of the words they use to describe Kimberly: honest, knowledgeable, caring, hardworking, easygoing, a problem solver, and very detailed. And I can say about problem solver, sometimes I have to tell her to quit, because, you know, somebody else can handle it, I can handle it, or somebody, but she does a great job, and just want to say congratulations, Kimberly. Keep up the great work.
Great job, Justin, and thank you, Kimberly, for all that you do for our town and representing the face of the town of Troutman to many people in the community. They do appreciate it. May not feel like it sometimes in the moment, but it's very much appreciated in the community. And on behalf of the council, we do appreciate what you do every day. So thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is recognition of our Troutman Exchange Club and the Evening Exchange Club of Lake Norman. I'll turn it over to Mr. Wyatt first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also, I apologize to those in attendance and those that are watching our council meeting via YouTube. Apparently, we are having some sound issues with microphones. Travis is trying to get those worked out, but I do apologize that that is occurring. This one's not. You may be good back there, but I'm telling you, this one's not working. Oh, that was very nice. We will do the best we can, but thank Council, Mayor Pro Tem Oxer, there it comes on, to try to get our sound issue fixed. Emily Watson will help me. All I will start is saying, when the Lake Norman Evening Exchange Club came to us about 2 years ago to ask what they could do to help the town of Troutman following what the goals that they have as a club, and Americanism is one of those things. Of course, we as a town had already been doing things with other partners as far as child abuse, domestic violence, but children is also another cause that they champion. And when the Lake Norman Evening Exchange Club came, we had several meetings, and the work that went into doing our first Walk of Heroes was outstanding of all the volunteers. And as you all have heard us say with our own town events, every time you do one, you learn something new, keep what worked great and try to improve on those that maybe was not the best. But as Cotton Ketchy, who is not with the group tonight, stated several times with that first year's event, Troutman had a lot of great people, and it would be great if Troutman had an exchange club. Well, lo and behold, we do have Troutman Exchange Club here, and they jumped in and have partnered with the town on a couple events already as well, but they helped with the Walk of Heroes greatly. Emily, is there anything else you would like?
This group has worked tirelessly for last year and this year for months on end, and we just appreciate their partnership and everything that they've done to pull this off. And it was a well-loved event in our community. We just thank you. Beth Preston spearheaded this year. She was phenomenal, very organized. But this was such a beautiful event for our community. We can't thank you enough. Yes, just wanted to recognize you tonight. Thank you for coming.
Great, thank you. And so I'm going to ask them to come up, and I'm going to present them a certificate of recognition, which states on behalf of the Troutman Town Council, town residents, and the greater Troutman community, I, Mayor T.R. Young, hereby recognize the Exchange Club, one for Lake Norman and one for Troutman, for your community engagement and partnership with the town of Troutman. You have our deepest appreciation for your selfless dedication, unfailing patriotism, and time invested in recognition and honor of our country's veterans with the Walk of Heroes and Memorial Day ceremony. If you would, please come forward.
Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you for all you've done. Thank you. Thank you for all your work. Thank you. Thank you for your Thank you for all your work.
If you all would turn around in front of council for a picture, please.
Thank you.
Shift over this way a little bit, please, Amy. Thank you.
Uh-oh.
No worries.
Anyone want to have words? You're welcome to.
Amy, y'all want to speak? Feel free.
I won't get on the microphone, but I would just say we appreciate the town and all the extra work that your team put into it also. That was very beneficial to pulling this program off. So we're just very appreciative.
Great, thank
And
you.
as they go to the chairs, they have a ham day coming up soon that everybody needs to participate in.
Well, awesome. If it's anything like they were at the night out, they didn't bring popcorn, but we'll see them at the ham day anyway. So thank you all again. We appreciate you. So thank you.
September 23rd in the morning, be hungry for ham. I'm sorry, 28th. And that's the part I appreciate about Jane and Amy. Every time I say something, they're like, well, you was almost right.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
finish."
Well,
Mr. Mayor, kind of all right, you mentioned popcorn. I just happened to read today, one reason Cotton may not be here tonight, he may be nursing a sore stomach from too many hot dogs and popcorn. Anybody happen to see what I saw or read today?
yeah, yeah. Awesome. Thank you again so much. The next item is the mention of a proclamation that I have signed on behalf of healthcare centers in our community, understanding that affordable healthcare impacts all of us, as well as ensuring that we have preventive healthcare in our community as well. We've got a number of health centers throughout the community, and again, we appreciate everything they do. And again, I signed that as well this day, in August 8th. That takes us to the next item on our agenda, which is new business. And the first item is a request from South Iredell for the approval of a road closure for the homecoming parade on Wednesday, October 16th at 6:30. I believe Mr. David Lewis is here. Please come up and introduce the request.
Ladies.
I'm actually gonna pass the request on because people tell me no all the time.
Awesome.
It's hard to tell them no.
Good evening. I'm Darby Lewis, and this is Shelby Burry. We're both cheerleaders at South Iredell. On behalf of Principal Robert Little, Athletic Director David Lewis, South Iredell High School, and Proud Vikings everywhere, we are asking for the road closure as granted in the past for the annual homecoming parade on October 16th, 2024. We are not requesting anything new or additional. Thank you for your time and consideration. Go Vikings.
Vikings? Any questions from council regarding this request? I think there was one item that I think council would like to ask, which is, is there any way you all can help clean up when it comes to candy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Staff heard that? All right, we're good?
Absolutely.
Okay,
We will have all the cheerleaders out there picking up candy.
absolutely, all right. Get our OTC involved and some of the football players and other volleyball players, and again, just help keep our town clean. We appreciate it and look forward to celebrating with you. So, thank you.
And just to clarify, the clerk asked me, I couldn't hear with our sound system. Did they ask a specific street? If not, we need to identify it's East Way, Northeast Way.
Whatever the previous route was.
Okay, all right.
From
So-
the park.
From the park, we turn left on Broad, right on the church, and they're asking to close Eastway Drive.
Okay.
Nothing else will be closed.
Okay.
Also note that we're, starting 30 minutes later this year, so the football team doesn't have to cut their practices short, and it's also better for traffic after work.
Okay, awesome.
Can you give that route one more time, please? You in Scruggs, and then right on Church, and then where on East Way?
Start the parade at the top of Eastway, right there, at Church Street. That's where the parade will commence. They're only asking to close the portion of Church and Eastway to, Olmert out to Eastway. And it's about 30 minutes, 30, 40 minutes.
A lot of people are happy to come and get the candy that the various groups throw out. And I'm tickled to hear they will help clean up the leftovers.
Okay. All right, council, can I get a motion regarding this request?
I make a motion that we grant the request of the South Iredell High School for the road closure of Eastway for the homecoming parade on Wednesday, October 16th, 2024.
Okay, motion's on the floor, is there a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, any other question or comment? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. It's granted. You were good anyway, but you did mention your principal at one point, and I questioned that. He's a good friend of mine, but I'll leave it at that. So tell Mr. Little it's granted. Thank you.
I wanted to wait till y'all said yes before I.
Thank you.
Take him back Thank you.
Very much. Thank
Girl,
you.
ladies.
I know how to find you, Mr. Lewis.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it is. All right, the next item on the agenda is the consideration of ordinance 2024. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Wyatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Roman numeral 4, item number 11 is consider ordinance 2024 titled.
Mr. Wyatt, one moment. Those of y'all who are here, you are welcome to leave. I don't want to hold you captive, but you're welcome to stay.
Oh, they gotta stay.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Thank y'all again. Thank you.
Item number 11 is consider ordinance 2024 titled an ordinance enacting a code of ordinances for the town of Troutman, North Carolina, revising, amending, restating, codifying, and compiling certain existing general ordinances of the political subdivision dealing with subjects embraced in such code of ordinances. I say all of that language to simply translate all the ordinances that we had are generally found in a book. As we add and amend ordinances somewhat regularly, it gets hard for staff and/or the town attorney and/or some of us individuals to keep up with what is what and where can I find it. This was a project that we should have done a couple years, well, more than a couple years ago, but that it is basically restating all the code as it has been passed to the best of our knowledge and you all's. That does not mean that every code in there is correct for its intent. It is the way it was passed. We will correct codes and ask for amendments, just like that long dissertation of what that means of changing them as we go forward. But this records them as they were meant to be, even with the errors.
Okay, great. Council, you've heard from Mr. Wyatt regarding the consideration for ordinance 2024. Is there a motion regarding our ordinances?
I'll make that motion, accepting the ordinance 2024, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, motion's on the floor to accept 2024. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, receive the second. Any question or comment? Okay. All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. I would ask that council, as you continue to look through your nicely bound code, if you see things in there that we need to discuss, please share them with the manager and myself so that we can consider putting them on the agenda if there does need to be a text amendment. So thank you for that. The next item is consideration of ordinance 2424, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Wyatt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we stated, there is a business practice that we have followed and then some ordinances that were not clearly spelled. This is one of those. It's an ordinance amending the Town of Troutman Code of Ordinance mandating all parties participating in the collection of solid waste services remain customers. Even though it's titled that, there are some exceptions due to planning and zoning. It is also in the ordinance that town manager or designee can review requests case by case. But the intent of this is to make sure that our community stays healthy by those not being able to just simply decide, I can deny trash service, I don't want it. One example off the top of my head is the apartments down across from elementary school. We do not provide them trash services. However, they do have to provide trash service for all the residents. There will be some other examples throughout the town. A dead-end street, for example, that was zoned to where it only had 3 to 6 houses. If they have a community pickup location and are engaged with a trash pickup service, of course, that would be an exception to what we're accomplishing here. I'll be glad to answer any other questions.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Wyatt?
Situation with the apartments again, can you kind of clarify that?
Yes, sir. They have a dumpster area. When council, years ago, I think you and the mayor and Kim were the only ones here that were here then when it got passed. When it went through its design build phase and approval of planning and zoning, there was not going to be individual trash cans for each unit. People have to take their trash and then put it, or recyclables, and put them in containers that are built to hold just that. So they have a dumpster service that they contract with whomever picks that up. So they do have to maintain trash service, it's just not through the town.
I guess that had just so much going on has left me, but, yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I remember that as you mentioned it, I remember it now. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Any other questions for Mr. Wyatt? Is there a motion regarding consideration for ordinance 2424?
I will, make that motion that, we adopt ordinance 2424 titled, an ordinance amending the town Troutman Code of Ordinances, mandating all properties, participating in collection of solid waste services remain customers.
Is there a second? Motion is made, receive the second. Any other question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. The next item is a rezoning request, RZ 2406. The applicant is the town of Troutman, 2.63 acres, PIN 4730, 89, 31, 19, and it is 524 Autumn Leaf Road to revert the property from CZHB highway business, conditional highway business, to its original zoning designation of RS suburban residential. I will now open this public hearing and turn it over to Mr. Ventresca.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. As mentioned with this request, the applicant is the town of Troutman. The property is owned by Callard Land Management, LLC. The current zoning is conditional zoning highway business. We are requesting to rezone this back to its original zoning of suburban residential. The proposed use of the property will be single-family residential with this zoning. Property is about 2.6 acres, and I just wanted to point out that UDO section 9.8.4J1 allows the town of Troutman to initiate zoning a property back to its original zoning on these conditional zonings if within 2 years of approval nothing has happened, meaning the applicant has not submitted any documents to move forward. And this particular case, I believe, was approved in 2016, so we're well beyond that 2-year window. Location of the property is on the north side of Autumn Leaf Road. It's just east of the intersection with Perth Road, and it's just south of the Calvin Creek subdivision. Current zoning map, it's this property that's outlined in red in front of you. It's conditional zoning highway business as discussed. The pink you see is mixed residential, and then the green you see next to it is the suburban residential zoning that we're requesting tonight. The current zoning plan is in front of you. It's kind of hard to see. I took it from the ordinance. It's basically 2 building lots with a 30-foot buffer on the north and the east side. It allows the uses that have been included in your packet. Some of those uses include government buildings, daycare centers, private schools, office uses up to 30,000 square feet, retail uses up to 30,000 square feet, and warehousing. Again, that list is included in your packet, and you can see everything that's currently approved there. Land use map shows this parcel to be developed as neighborhood commercial, and neighborhood commercial is a step below the highway business that is currently zoned. Current zoning, again, is the highway business. Highway business is to provide a wide array of primary retail and services to a large trading area. So basically, our highway business area is typically the exit 42 area that we have off of Interstate 77. Again, the permitted uses were included in your packet. The zoning requested is suburban residential. That's basically a half-acre, single-family use lots. Current land use, as I mentioned, is a neighborhood commercial. Neighborhood commercial centers serve the needs of the surrounding residential neighborhoods. So think of small stores that just provide to the surrounding neighborhoods and the surrounding area, usually within a quarter, half mile of the site. Recommendation, staff does recommend to approve this, obviously if we're bringing it in front of you tonight. And planning board also recommended approval, and their recommendation was unanimous. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions for myself.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ventresca. Any questions for the planning director?
I do have one. Is it possible to go back to the zoning map? Yeah. So I noticed that there's two other nearby parcels that have the same. Are these potential problem spots as well, or?
This property to the south, it was zoned highway business conditional zoning to allow for mechanic business at a residential location. So the guy's basically running an auto shop out of his house, and he's been using that since approved, so
Okay.
he has no reason to think he's going to be reverted. And then the property here in the corner is actually a storage facility.
Right, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Van Tresca?
Who was the original owner that, we did this in 2016?
What I found was Otto. I'm not sure who the first name was, but it was called the Otto property.
Any other questions for Mr. Van Tresca? Okay. Anyone here from the public would like to comment on this public hearing, rezoning request? Okay. Seeing none, I will now close this public hearing. Council, you've heard from Mr. Van Tresca regarding this request. Let's consider adoption of ordinance 2124 regarding changing the property. Is there a motion regarding the adoption of the ordinance?
We'll make a motion that we adopt the ordinance 2124, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Motion's made that we adopt ordinance 2124, changing the zoning classification of the after described property from conditional zoning, highway business, CZ, to suburban residential. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, receive the second. Any other question or comment on the adoption of the ordinance? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item is the approval of a consistency statement, and I would ask that you please read the full statement. Is there a motion regarding consistency?
I'll make that motion and I'll read the statement, Mr. Mayor. Action describing consistency example, if rezoning to RS. Through rezoning the property to suburban residential is not consistent with the 2035 future land use map, it will revert the property to its original zoning destination. Furthermore, the current CZHB zoning is also not consistent with the future land use map, and reverting the property to its original designation will permit the property to be zoned to a designation consistent with the map if it ever becomes commercial in the future.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion? Motion is made, receive the second regarding the consistency statement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. The next item is a text amendment, TA 2405, to amend Article 1052, Design Review Board membership of the Town of Troutman Unified Development Ordinance. I will now open this public hearing and turn it over to Mr. Van Tresca.
Thank you. This particular amendment is brought at the request of council. It was spoken a couple months ago to come back with something like this. And this is a two-part request for the Design Review Board membership. The first part is to allow residents outside of the planning and zoning jurisdiction to serve on the board as the required design expert. And the second is to add a second alternate position to the board to make it consistent with what we have for our planning board and our board of adjustment. What you see in front of you is just the basic language of how we're changing it. The first line there, we're adding the language in red, which adds the two alternate members. And then the two, the A and C, what you see struck out, basically just eliminates that language about residing inside the planning and zoning jurisdiction. A little bit of background about this is, being that we do require a design expert with the Design Review Board, it's not always possible to find somebody that's got an application in that resides in the planning and zoning jurisdiction. So that's the basic request and background of this request. The design review board did review it, and they approved their rules and regulations to match up with what I'm presenting tonight. Staff does recommend approval of this, and planning board also unanimously recommended approval. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Van Tresca regarding this text amendment? Hearing none, anyone here from the public like to comment on this text amendment? Okay. Seeing none, I will close this public hearing. Council, you've heard from Mr. Van Tresca. We will now consider adoption of ordinance 2224, amending the Unified Development Ordinance. Is there a motion regarding the adoption of this ordinance?
Mr. Mayor, I will make the motion that we adopt ordinance 22-24 as presented, titled, an ordinance amending the Town of Troutman Unified Development Ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Is any comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. The last item is to consider approval of a consistency statement, and I would ask that you read the full statement.
I make a motion regarding consistency of this action, that this text amendment is consistent with the 2018 strategic plan and the Unified Development Ordinance and reasonable and in the public interest as is consistent with the goals of the Troutman strategic plan.
Is there a second to the motion regarding consistency?
Second.
Motion is made, receive the second. Any other comment or question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. The next item is a text amendment, TA 2406, to replace Article 7.7.2, traffic impact analysis of the Troutman Unified Development Ordinance. I will now open this public hearing. Turn it over to Mr. Van Tresca.
Thanks again, Mr. Mayor. The town of Troutman had entered into agreement with consultant Kimley Horn to act as our transportation consultant in the future. And this contract was signed, and it's legal and binding now. And one of the first acts that we've done was to look at our code 7.7.2, which is our traffic impact analysis section, and make some changes. So Kimley Horn staff and Troutman planning staff sat down with Kimley Horn to recommend some changes. Kimley Horn drafted up a document, and that's what you have in your packet tonight. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Steve Blakely with Kimley Horn, who's going to go through some of the changes, let the council know about this. These were briefly touched upon back in December when Kimley Horn was here, and so some of it should look familiar to you. And I said it was changes. I'll say it's improvements. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Blakely, and he's going to go through some of the changes with you.
Good evening. I'm Steve Blakely with Kimley Horn. Nice to be here on such a wonderful evening.
Yes.
So yes, as Andrew said, what we've done since we talked about this last in December was work on some edits, and the PowerPoint that we've got are basically highlighting the changes between the text as you have it in your current ordinance to what's being proposed here. This is more of a summary. So from a big picture agenda perspective then, we've, clearly going to cover the process, the threshold for a TIA, flexibility in the TIA requirements, a transportation mitigation agreement, TMA, and payment in lieu. So those are the 5 key points we're going to look at. So this slide focuses on process. The top row is your current process, and the bottom row is the proposed changes, essentially with the changes highlighted in red. So the second block, you can see that in this case, the current way this process works is the applicant of a request for development is hiring the traffic impact consultant, and in the new process, the consultant will be your consultant. And then the last one, clearly we just highlighted this from a consistency standpoint, because that was something that we heard from you all, is the notion of consistency in presentations and the information that you receive, how it's delivered, how it's incorporated with other components of prior steps. So that's essentially their the TIA threshold. So essentially this is where and when is a TIA warranted. This is the objective side of that threshold component. So again, the top version of this slide is representing your current way of determining that threshold. And you can see with the table there, based on the type of land use being requested and the size of that, there were certain thresholds that we looked at. So the proposed new way simplifies that a little more, and I'll tell you this is very consistent, not only in our area, our region, our state, but across the country. Very commonly, trips are used as just a standard 100 peak hour trips and 1,000 daily trips. So that really simplifies it. Proposed development is bringing in either of those two categories that trips the threshold. So sometimes there are also concerns that come up or may exist related to traffic that really fit those objective categories. And there is a proposed list of other elements that allow for a TIA or sort of an abbreviated version of a TIA to be developed. In this case, we're calling it a Transportation Technical Memorandum. And as an example, there may be areas that a development's requested, it doesn't meet those objective numbers, but there are safety concerns or nearby neighborhood that has some concerns that would warrant the need to at least evaluate to some extent and some level a traffic evaluation to gauge against those concerns. So this gives a listing of examples on when and how that might be utilized. So this is really more of a subjective side of a potential for warranty.
Can I ask you a question on that? Say you're in a situation where there is a proposed building of a subdivision or maybe a large industry coming, it's going to be reasonably close by. It would involve a lot of traffic. However, it hasn't been definitely confirmed yet, no dirt turned, site plan maybe is issued, but nothing definite has happened yet. Can that be considered in this flexibility of the TIA of something that is not there yet, it's proposed to be there, hopefully it'll be there, but it's not chiseled in granite, shall we say.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly do a traffic study. I mean, using a site plan, we can go and collect traffic counts that are on the road today, use the site plan to do trip gen for the proposed development, even if it's at that level and not.
Well, the site plan has not been, let me go a little further, the site plan has not been yet. It's something that, we're pretty certain it's coming, but the site plan has not been, I'm getting out there a little bit into a theoretical area, I understand, because, things can happen and things at the last minute go away. So, to prepare for that, what can we do?
There would be some assumptions that we'd bake into it then, without a site plan. And clearly that would be the size of it and its use. So, if a warehouse, one building or multiple buildings on the property, so that makes a difference. And then it's connectivity with, internal connections within the parking lot, and then where are the driveways? Where are they accessed? How many of the driveways do we want to assume? So there's some elements of assumptions that would build into that of what we would think maybe the site plan would turn out to be, just based off the constraints of the site.
I didn't know if NCDOT would, obviously town and our consultant maybe would okay with that, but DOT may not be saying that it's nothing firm, it's still theory or conjecture. I didn't know how we would handle that. I would just hate for us to be short, you know, it comes and we're short, or, and I would hate to overdo and unnecessary expense. So it's doggone if you do, doggone if you don't, but I just didn't know how you and Andrew, your organization may handle a situation like that.
Yeah, no, from the NCDOT perspective, I think they're gonna wanna see something that they review, and especially if they're gonna visit the county. There are things like certified sites, right, there's a whole element of study that goes into that, and consensus among all those, assumptions that go into that. But that's, I think that's probably a little different than you're describing right now, but, yeah, the DOT, I'm sure would want an actual plan that they could stand for.
Just something, you know, that I'm thinking, I mean, lots going on. You know, we were expecting a large development south of here. So far, it hasn't happened. Don't know if it will happen. Hopefully, it'll happen. And how do you plan for that? You know, we tried to plan for it coming. You know, it didn't come. And how do you handle situations? And that's just one example of other situations that could or could not happen. How do we handle that in the TIA? Trying to, you know, prepare somewhat reasonably for the future.
Yeah, probably in a scenario like that is not carry it through to a formalization of an actual build document that's printed, right? I mean, it sounds like if the site hadn't been developed and it's, you know, still sort of flexible in terms of the use or maybe the size of it, it's probably a little more of a planning level traffic study, which can be done, you know, and still take it to a certain point to say, all right, is this, you know, are 3 driveways enough, 1 enough? You know, do we need to make improvements roughly, do we need a 4-lane road out front, for example? And we can get to a planning level, expectations for speculative development like that without going through a full formal traffic impact analysis as really discussed in this kind of study. So, yeah, certainly ways to avoid that.
Mr. Miller?
Sir, you stated before, like 50 is the threshold for a TIA. So for safety concerns, if we had some, 48, 49 is awful close to 50. So we, as town council and mayor, with our planning and zoning director, can then request a TIA if we have safety concerns, am I correct? Even though they are under technically the threshold of 50.
And actually, what's been recommended is 100 peak hour trips, so like the morning peak hour, the evening peak hour of the typical street when it's the busiest.
Right.
Commuter traffic.
Because specifically,
Or 1,000.
a proposal was put up to us with just 49, so they didn't have to do the TIA.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's definitely some discretion that falls within this, and Andrew's definitely been, you know, involved in that discussion and, sort of the way this has been worded, so, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Again, to Mr. Now's point, I think the thought process of I've tried not to use another acronym, but TTM seems pretty easy to say, but a Transportation Technical Memorandum, which we've not had access to in the past or developed, I think gets to what Mr. Now is saying, where we have kind of these arbitrary kind of situations. So I think that'll be helpful.
Yeah, as a sort of an example scenario, I remember doing one for 19 units in Boone. That's going to generate nowhere near a volume warrant for a traffic study, because I mean 19 units is just so small, but there were some concerns about sight distance and safety related to the intersection that it's connecting to and pedestrians and the way they come through. So that element warranted it through discretionary items such as these that's listed.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I mean, resonating the same concerns, I think that Councilman already did. The impact of, like say we have somebody proposing 49, you know, just under the 50, which is the trigger. Is there any way to reduce that? Because oftentimes we don't have much space here in Troutman, so that it's on top of each other. It's not like other areas where there's maybe vast space and they can be 49. And them opposing intersections directly where other developments are going that maybe aren't already on the TIA, maybe they propose 49 too. And now we have them across the street from each other. Essentially, we have a development that is 98, right, not 49. So what can we do to maybe lower that trigger or have more conformity along the TIA corridors?
Well, I'll start, and if you wanna add, we can do that. I mean, we can set this number at whatever y'all wanna set it at, okay? It certainly adds an expense from a development standpoint, when you think about it, in a little more detail. So let's pick 60, because that's an easy number, right? So if a development generates 60 trips in the peak hour, that's a car a minute. Okay, so, right, and then a development typically has some proportionality between traffic going in and traffic coming out in the peak hour. Easy one is take a single family neighborhood, probably 90%, and I'm roughly number here, 90% exits, and then 10% comes in that peak hour, in the AM peak hour. And then that proportionality is almost flipped in the evening. People come back home, right? So then we take that one car a minute and we start to whittle it down even less. So the impact when you're talking about 60 cars and then you go down less than that, say 50 and 10, compared to an intersection that's got hundreds or thousands of cars in it in that same peak hour, it just sort of disappears and starts to go backwards. Okay? But this is certainly at y'all's discretion. I mean, we can set that at whatever limit y'all want. It's just 1,000 and 100 are very commonly used for that reason. Just the sheer magnitude going through that effort of doing a study for small amounts. But right, it's your town, right?
Yeah,
And so we won't do what y'all feel comfortable with.
And that's a cost that is passed on to the developer, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so in that, I mean, it would encompass all of the developments within that intersection. Are those numbers, do those change by the size of the community or, as far as the infrastructure that's currently existing? Like, we don't have an existing infrastructure here in Troutman, so every development is an impact to every intersection and road and mode of transportation.
Well, the predictability of trip per development is what's going to generate this number. Okay? The size and use of the development is what predicts this. It's independent of what's on the road already, or what's coming, right? So
Right.
if there's traffic already there and it's, operating at a certain level and other traffic coming, all that builds up into a baseline lead. We'll start with and call that a background, right? So that's just a background condition, and then we have to cite traffic to it. And the development's responsible for addressing that add, not to fix it.
What's already existing. Yeah, and I think that's kind of why I ask these questions is because I can't say we've over-approved, but the way the traffic is here, especially when school's in session, is we can't ask all the developers to fix those issues, but I mean, we can definitely consider them. So.
My question would be, I heard you mention safety. Well, what else is encompassed in this special concern? No, you can go back.
Oh, here?
Right, none, all right, unless in an area of special concern. I heard you mention safety. Well, what else could, kind of piggybacking on what the other,
Yeah, so these are objectives. This is a simple calculation used based on the size, so 1,000 and 100. This is the scenario where it's more discretionary in terms of what can be used to predict or to require a traffic study. So traffic generated from a non-residential development that could potentially significantly impact adjacent neighborhoods. That's a pretty broad statement. Right, so, and if it's 49 under a 50 kind of scenario, that's a pretty broad statement if you've got a lot of neighborhoods in traffic. Right? Two, traffic operation problems for current and or future years on
The one thing I would like to add, I know you all in the room know, but for those that may be watching, and for our clerk's records, anytime a TIA is performed, it has to be during times that school would be in session. So to the point you made with school traffic, absolutely, but TIAs do have to be performed when school is in session. That way, they can't say the counts were off because the traffic's not there.
But I remember in reading Andrew's text when he first told us this was coming up and he was presenting this to us, that, you know, there are allowances in there, as you say, broad statements, broad flexibility to address, you know, what Councilman Juransky said, you know, concerning, Councilman Dick, I'll say it.
That's better.
His concern, which is a valid concern, you know, 19 on one, 19 on another, now you got a problem, as opposed to 19 on just one. But there are allowances in there to where I think if our planning and zoning individual sees that and you know, passes that on to you and so forth, that can be addressed in a TIA without having to lower any numbers, I would think.
So,
Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I mean, and that's part of what, I think that's part of the process that was, we go back to that with y'all selecting a single consultant to keep track of all this stuff, you know, that's part of it. And that way the consistency is established there, and it's like, hey, you know, remember we just got this or just approved the site a month ago for this particular development. So it's, you know, so it starts to build and creates that strong foundation.
So I guess you're saying at our discretion, we can request a TIA on any project that is proposed?
so Nick, let me clarify a couple things. So, and Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, and, so I think if you go back one slide. So if you look at this slide, you've got the current where, again, what Mr. Now was asking regarding, about, less than 50, right? If you look at residential. And we've had these, you know, questions. It's been, you know, this is how we've shown it to be, you know, spelled out for all of these different uses, right? And so I think the proposal here is where we look down here and we see new, and that is actually increasing, right? So that, you know, we're actually, while we're looking at peak hours and daily trips, but what we're doing is, on the next slide, which is where we go to the opportunity where we can then say, which has always been a little fuzzy for us, we had what we call that concrete grid before. It struggled because we've not had this kind of language where we're not just saying, okay, maybe you don't have to do a TIA because you don't have now the 100 daily trips, but maybe it's a transportation technical memorandum that we're going to require, and that would have some specificity around what we need to see before we approve your project. And these are some of the language. This gives us the language to say back to that developer, okay, this is why we need either a TIA, full-blown TIA, or maybe it's just a Transportation Technical Memorandum, TTM.
I appreciate you explaining that. I'm only asking such in-depth questions on it because of maybe a more recent proposal that
absolutely.
was, you know, we had,
Yep.
I think, like 80 homes across the street approved, and they're
Absolutely.
like, we're under the threshold.
Yeah, but
You know?
and the problem was, again, we were going back to that last grid,
Yep.
and we were struggling because it was just underneath
Yep.
that hard count. Now we've got a hard count, but we've also got more language and more tools here, and using our outside consultant to be able to manage that.
So I guess my only other question would be, you're essentially going to create a plan where TIAs come together uniformly through the community for projects that are already underway, approved, or coming. And are those going to be available for prospective developers to look at and say, hey, this is where I am, and they're probably going to request a TIA from me because this is what's approved across the street that isn't under development yet? as they may not know. Do you know what I mean?
Right, so, yeah, so when we do those, and that would become a public document. So,
Okay.
yes, if
Yep.
other developers wanted to take a look at that and review it and see what's on the books, then yes, they could certainly.
Okay.
Other questions before he moves on? Okay. Thank you.
James, we mentioned the TMA. Yeah, trying to keep the letters. Three pointed here,
Yes,
simple.
you all cannot avoid that. I know that. Absolutely.
So the transportation mitigation agreement is essentially is a simpler way of thinking about that is an executive summary of, once the technical elements of the TIA are completed, this becomes a summary. You really don't have that in your processes today. So this would be created after completion of the TIA, and then would summarize these elements. And I think through various discussions we've had, these 5 bullets that are on the slide are the ones that seem most critical for you for being able to go back and get that reference. So it would include the development plan, phasing and timing of the development if it's large enough or if it's requested and approved in a manner that can be phased. Site access, clearly that's a critical component. The on and off-site improvements that are required after the TIA is completed. And then trigger points and deadlines for construction of improvements. May have to be in place until CO is issued or some other element of condition along the way.
So again, just trying to make sure there's a clarity point here. The mitigation agreement is after council has approved the plan, or is it before?
Well, it's after the TIA is completed.
Okay.
Everybody's in agreement. So did we actually set a time of whether the TMA would get finalized before or after?
We haven't, but you have to remember that not every development that requires a TIA is gonna be in front of the town
That's right.
council.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
we really didn't discuss the timing of that.
Okay.
So it's something if, you'll see the conditional rezoning cases most likely.
Right.
So if that's something you would like to add into it, like the timing when this is due, I guess, in relation to that conditional rezoning, this is a text amendment that's eventually gonna be approved by the council. So if that's something you guys would like to add, you're more than welcome to.
I think the only challenge is we've seen a handful of folks who have come before council. Again, most of these probably by right, but they haven't fully completed a TIA. And so I've seen council struggle a bit in terms of, so how do I approve this without a TIA?
The one thing I'll add to that, even though a TIA is important, by statute, it cannot be used to consider whether to pass or fail.
That's true.
On the TIA side, it's just understood when they're going through the process that once the TIA is completed, the town, through staff and our contracted service, is protecting our interest, and the developer has to follow that. They don't get the option of not doing it. So many times, whether it be planning and zoning board or council over the years, the barter back and forth about the TIA, then that's okay. But in some instances, we can ask for more, but they can never ask for less. Unless they come before the applicant.
I think we talked about the timing piece of the TIA, and it will certainly be when you present it before it comes to you. So you'll have that, and then, in the event where there's things that are done during the meeting that you decide differently on against the recommendations or different than the recommendations, then this could be created after that summarizes and then incorporates what your changes are. So,
Okay.
but yes, I mean, the TIA is certainly, it's a technical document. It identifies those improvements that are needed to address the impacts created by the development. But ultimately, I mean, that's y'all's decision. And NCDOT, if it applies to an NCDOT road.
I was getting, that's what I was getting ready to say, I mean, you know, it doesn't matter what we agree upon, you know, what DOT says got to be there, you know, at least the minimum's got to be there. Now, as town manager said, we can ask for more from the developer can agree, but then still DOT, and we've seen this, says, nope, you know, what's there already is enough. And, you know, we have no recourse, you know, again, being, as you say, a state maintained road is effective. So, you know, it all boils down to, especially on state roads, what DOT will allow us to do. I mean,
Yeah.
we've had situations, again, you know, where we have had agreements to do better or do more at, mitigating traffic. And, cannot force it if NCDOT says, nope, that's not required, it's not necessary. Don't allow it. It's odd, but, you know, it's like, you know, Chevrolet versus a, you know, Cadillac or a Beamer or whatever, a Mercedes, and you say, nope, I want Chevrolet, you know, forget the more expensive car. But again, that's the situation. But let me ask you, the TMA then again is something that finalizes the TIA, it puts into agreement form, in written textual agreement form.
That's right.
You know, this is the TIA.
It would be a summary. I mean, instead of getting that big TIA document, I mean, which we still put an executive summary in there, but this tunes it down even more. It's generally, I think we were talking about even a one-page deal. We could boil that down to a one-page. Here it is, you know, in the file, quick reference. And if you want to dig into details, then go back to the TIA and dig into the details. Otherwise, here's your one-page or roughly a one-page or quick look.
Andrew, you know, I found that if you don't set timelines, sometimes things tend to drag, and even get lost in the shuffle. Do you not think it would be a good idea to put some sort of timeline on the TMA?
It's up to the council so much. We would prefer that we have some kind of information, the meat of the document, at least some information for you, what the mitigation is gonna be. It might not be finalized, but before it comes in front of you, just so you have that information. I mean, obviously, there's gonna be background work the whole time, but one of the reasons why we are hiring a consultant is they'll be doing all of our counts and everything for us, so the TIA should be developed even faster.
So you're saying it's not really, well, I'm not gonna say critical, but it's not that important.
I think the critical thing is having just an idea, like, we'll have Kimley Horn here when we're doing the rezoning cases, and they'll go ahead and present to you the findings they have at that particular point, and hopefully that's gonna be enough meat of it. You'll see what's gonna be needed, maybe not 100%, but, you know, okay, you're gonna have these turn lanes here or whatnot. The design and all that stuff is not gonna be settled, but I think you'll have enough information to make at least a decision that you're comfortable with these TIAs.
Well, the TMA will happen, it's just, we're not gonna put a timeline, it's not necessarily needed to put a timeline on it, if I hear you correctly, in your opinion.
Yeah, you know, again, it's up to the council, but, you know, I don't think we even have to bring it in front of you until at least we have enough that you're comfortable seeing.
And this is not something we need to vote on or anything. It's something that's in the file that if we want to go back to, we can always reference, okay, what happened with this particular project? So again, I think what I'm hearing is it's an opportunity for us to quickly go back without having to review the entire TIA or the other details, but at least see the summary of kind of what was going on with that plan.
So in that summary, is that, I know our council meeting minutes record everything. Is that something that also gets inputted into the TIA, like council's concerns for the community? You know, if approval or denial, things that we may have addressed as far as TIA didn't show that a turn lane was needed, but council expressed concern of a turn lane needed, so that when another developer comes, they can say, well, you know, we know what we're gonna be up against.
Along the way, if there are things that says, hey, we're concerned about this intersection, or this movement or something like that, then absolutely, that'll be evaluated and then reported in that document, that it was studied, You know, I mean, if, so along the way, there's that opportunity to do that. And clearly, you know, there's a lot of collaboration between the town developer and school along the way. You know, we get those, elements identified and then if there's just, so let's just say we submit a report and something comes up, there's a turn lane that's identified that would be adequate to mitigate the development's impact. But there's a historic property on this side, so putting in a left turn lane would impact the historic property. And this one over here, you know, we've got some other issue, you know, putting in a right turn. So we'll discuss that. We really want to do that. And that made that discussion, or your concerns, going one way or the other throughout that meeting, may tweak the final outcome of that. And if NCDOT is okay with that, then the TMA can capture those changes and say, all right, the TIA document, or TTM, whichever it is we're discussing, identified this and maybe options, but here's what we all decided on. DOT is agreeing with it, so here's the final recommendation, the TMA.
I think that's kind of what I'm asking.
Okay, yeah, that could certainly be, if there are changes made to that along the way, that certainly could be recommended.
And I'll add that, I'll use last month as an example with the case we heard, and the council did bring up some concerns about potential traffic, and there wasn't a study and whatnot. I will say that if somebody comes to, let's say we're going to use the same piece of property, they want to come to develop it, staff will share those concerns with the applicant prior to even accepting an application. Now, the applicant is, by right, they can come forward and do whatever they want. You know, they could do the same exact proposal if they wanted to, and if we had the same standards, you could hear it again, but we would definitely be on the forefront and say, listen, you know, that particular proposal wasn't approved, and one of the big reasons why was concerns from the town council about, you know, this turn lane or a stoplight or something. So staff is on the forefront of sharing that information, because the one thing we do not want is to keep bringing proposals in front of council that council has pretty much already denied, just to hear the same thing again.
I appreciate staff for being so forefront about that. As we know, you know, elected officials and staff have turnover, and sometimes that information doesn't get conveyed uniformly. So, you know, just look for it to be more in a document base where we can research it and see, that, like, this is what it is. Kind of all I'm looking for, yeah.
Payment in lieu is another new item, that's not currently in your processes and procedures. So the new, we've got a couple of bullets down here that just describe a little bit about what that is. So, let's just say there's a scenario where the developer cannot give the right of way. Needed to put in a right turn. Property owner not willing to sell any of the property, for example. And as I know you know, NCDOT's policy is that they will not condemn property that is purchased without they will do that for their projects, TIP, public and private projects, but not private. So, in those scenarios, where the developer tried to acquire the right of way and cannot get it, then clearly we go here as the second bullet, second primary bullet, requires town council approval, and have to come back to you and show that those endeavors for acquire that property and just not come through, and offer, potentially a payment in lieu of. A different kind of setup for that would be a scenario where there's a funded transportation project. So let's say there is a TIP project, at an intersection. Development has identified improvement at that same intersection, but for them to build that improvement, and then let's say the time of the TIP project is a year later, the Troutman public, you know, people using that, they have construction going on for the first thing, and then have it going on, you know, so as long as everybody's in favor and in agreement with it, then figure out a way to negotiate payment in lieu of making that agreement. Government release whatever conditions put on that development subject to city. Again, that would be a scenario there too. But the town runs the property.
And this is similar to our Houston Road Flower House project.
Yes, we've had a couple developments that were to make additional improvements to that intersection, and DOT was like, no, forget about it. Well, now we have the means to say, no, don't forget about it. You can make a payment in lieu of to those improvements, and we'll take care of it at a later time.
Question, and I know we've discussed this similar issue before, and I'm always, your payment in lieu of, if something's going to happen quickly, okay, but again, payment in lieu of, so that may mean a year, 2 years from now, 3 years. So how do you how does the town protect itself from inflationary pressures? Something that's worth, $50,000 or $10,000 or what have you number, and it's considerably more in a couple of years.
Well, so this payment in lieu of, I mean, and there's some descriptors in the text, but, it includes the entire elements for a complete project. Okay, so it's the planning, the design, the permitting, acquisition of right-of-way, if there's an acquisition of right-of-way, that the public agency would need to do, and of course, clearly the construction. And that would do that in today's dollars, so at present value kind of scenario. So create that thing and then invest well. I mean, I don't know how it really helps to do that unless there is a funding mechanism or a pot of money that you've already created that says, all right, we're developing a fund to widen a particular intersection. Okay, we're not there yet. Development's coming in, it has an improvement, we'd rather pool our resources, to do that now, or to use that to hopefully leverage CRTPO. Maybe it helps us get a much bigger project than we're actually initially planning on. But certainly inflation, I mean, that's gonna be a tough one to overcome, calculate it in today's dollars. I mean, if you wanna project what year the build out, or maybe what year that would be needed, you could predict it up in some compounding element, but yeah, that's where it is.
Basically, you're looking at today's dollars, but state law allows, say you think it's gonna be 2 or 3 years from now, today's dollars plus 10%, something like that. And state law allows that. Would that be strictly an agreement between you and the town developer?
I don't know about state law, for factoring up.
Wouldn't allow it?
It will allow us to take that money and have Justin to invest well. I just want to make sure you're awake over there.
So fee in lieu of is basically today's dollars, the valuation of today's dollars.
Yeah, if they were going to build it today. And I'm not sure what the scenario might be. It's like, okay, the development is said, let's say it's phased, and it's a phase 2 development, and they wanted to go ahead and do all the road improvements at once in phase 1, but phase 2 is not going to be until 5 years from now. And that's the way it was evaluated in the traffic study. So maybe there's an element that says, yeah, it's not needed now, it's needed in 5 years, and you work something out. So, I don't know. If they're in agreement with it, I mean, maybe that's a different scenario.
And understand that can go either way. I mean, who knows what's going to happen in 5 years?
Yeah, how do we protect the developer against deflation? Rabbit hole.
Next item.
I'm not gonna worry about it. Next. As long as the town's protected. As long as the town's protected, I'm fine.
So those were the big 5 primary topics of changes. Here are just a couple others. Study area. This new scenario just looks at least every intersection or the major intersections, let's say, within a mile mitigation thresholds. You had a V over C, volume to capacity ratio scenario before, for coming up with mitigation, which is it's good. It's basically how full is the cup scenario. That's what the volume to capacity ratio is. Level of service is a more of a delay. How long does somebody wait at a stop sign or a traffic signal to get out and do what they need to do? NCDOT uses the delay scenario, so the level of service is basically level of service. Now, we specifically noted level of service D because that is different than NCDOT's level. NCDOT's got some elements of where they will allow increases or usage of capacity up to a certain percentage if the level of service is not F. Okay? But when it becomes F, the policy is any impact at a level of service F intersection or approach has to be identified. Okay? But it allows you to go all the way to F and know both sides of the question. So common practice, at least in this region and in many others, and even on TIP projects, look out to that 20 to 25, 30-year horizon. The goal would be to achieve a level of service D in that future year. So for that reason, a lot of municipalities have been selecting D as that enhanced version of level of service to say if it's a D and it gets impacted, then improvements can be identified rather than allowing it to go all the way to F. So that was, one other change, and then, the last bullet there is multimodal capacity analysis and consideration of supply improvements that can go to those elements of transportation.
No, we have, we have a bike and ped plan. Does that take into account, these e-bikes at this point? It does.
I don't know if y'all specifically referenced that, but it would operate whether it's just on the same facility.
Okay. Okay.
We wouldn't really analyze a capacity different for an electric bike versus a manual bike.
Okay. Okay.
But, things like connectivity and having a plan is great, because it's like, okay, when we're doing a traffic study, consistency with the plan, with the bike ped plan. And then there may be opportunities that says, we're in an area where transportation's built out. The car side of it's built out, but there's still some improvements, but it doesn't make sense to add to, a huge intersection that we already have. It's totally not very, but just, so then it may be, all right, well, instead of doing that, a connection to the Greenway Trail would really be great. So, I mean, there's options. So this has text related to that.
Other questions? Great. We appreciate it. Look forward to working with you even more, and again, appreciate it, Andrew, for getting this in front of us. Council, at this time, you have heard the detail around this traffic analysis. I'll now actually open it up to the public for any other public comment. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And council, you consider adopting ordinance 2324. Is there a motion regarding this text amendment, this adoption of the ordinance?
I'll make a motion
Okay.
that we, pull out my sheet, that we approve, that we can adopt an ordinance 2324 titled an ordinance amending the Town of Troutman Unified Development Ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made, received a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We will now consider a consistency statement, and as usual, I'll ask for you to read the full statement.
Make a motion regarding consistency of this action, that this text amendment is consistent with the 2018 strategic plan and the Unified Development Ordinance, and reasonable and in public interest as it is consistent with the goals of the Troutman strategic plan.
Motion's on the floor regarding our consistency statement. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. We will now go to public comments. The public is invited to address the council with comments and concerns. You can address the council, and you're limited to 3 minutes. And we'd ask you to please abide by policy 51, governing comments from the public. That way I don't have to interject. Okay. No comments from the public. We will now move to reports and comments from elected officials and staff. I will start to my left. Mr. Jarozinski.
Well, I'd like to give a thanks to the chief and the police department for a great national night out. Looked to be well organized and well attended. Saw many new faces, and participation from the Troutman Police Department was great. There were a lot of displays and areas with generous food, free food, and entertainment. We had a DJ that played some pretty decent music and had community engagement, and a good showing of the local law enforcement agencies, including the sheriff, the Statesville Police Department, and State Highway Patrol and other fire departments in the area. So it was a really great event, and Parks and Rec Department for keeping the Troutman Park looking great so we can have events like that and invite other people in.
Thank you. Ms. Harris?
I echo those comments. So I really enjoyed National Night Out. I wish the chief was here so I could tell him great job. Great attendance, great to see so many different agencies involved, and of course the schools and everything. So it was a great event, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Mr. Now?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Being that school starts on Monday, I would like to wish all the students, staff, and teachers a successful and safe 2024-2025 school year.
Yes.
Great.
Go Vikings.
Yes, go Vikings.
Put your hat on.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Hinkle?
I just will certainly echo what's been said, sir, and pass it on.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Archer?
Well, I'm glad everybody had a good time at National Night Out. I missed it, and I'm angry. So, thanks for rubbing it in my face, everybody.
It was
I wasn't
fun.
there. But, yeah, I'm very disappointed I didn't get to make it. But yeah, also, yeah, school starting. I would encourage all the new drivers at South to slow down when you drive past Councilman Now's house. Please, that's a polite request. But yeah, other than that, yeah, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. National Night Out was very nice.
Can I make a motion?
No, I again echo all the comments that have been said, and I do wish all of our teacher, staff, and students a great year. Look forward to seeing the students who were in front of us tonight, cheerleaders, at the parade. Again, hopefully, again, they will have a great year, look forward to seeing them out there. Again, I appreciate the staff for all they've done, yeah, even trying to prepare for a storm that hopefully it's non-event. I know there's little minor things happening here and there, but again, it's always anxious whenever these storms approach. And again, so thanks for what you all do every day. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Wyatt for any staff comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. I would like to congratulate, even though she's left already, again, Kimberly Seeger. As Justin said, I have no idea the exact number. Anytime we have change, there's going to be questions and calls, and as much as we plan and try to get things moving smoothly, they do not. But we're changing waste companies and also changing computer programs. We've had a lot of questions, and a lot of those get pushed to Kimberly to handle. That's why it was above her normal job duties, about tenfold. It's not exaggerating or guessing that number. I know my volume has went up a lot with different people satisfied, dissatisfied, wanting old receptacles moved, why is the new ones not got here? And in the process, we learn that there's different things because of the records over the years, properties, it does not make sense to an outsider looking at things. But for example, there's about a dozen houses on Main Street that are not, never was, and according to the current owners, never will be in the town limits. But to everybody driving by them, they are the town of Troutman, and some of them, unfortunately, because of years of people not paying attention, were getting free services, such as trash cans picked up. So when a couple got their trash cans gone and advised, well, you can get them back, but you've got to pay for the service, we became the number one enemy all over again. Our police has had a real good month, according to the report that I saw from the chief. Parks and Rec has had a lot of programs in the last 2 months. Of course, as you all saw, Emily, who's not supposed to be working but was, is recovering from her surgery. And also our Public Works Department. They were out busy today when a truck driver lost control and drove into the trees on Murdoch Road that took out power for a lot of Murdoch Road, including the CATS facility, high school, which then took town gasoline services off. We do have proper backup plans for our equipment to get gasoline in case something like that happens. And again, I appreciate the department directors and being proactive and understanding worst case scenario, what do we do if the normal doesn't work. We had people for 2 days cleaning drains, expecting the abnormal rainfall. Fortunately, we so far have made it with very minor incidents here that we're aware of. Unfortunately, kind of south and east of us, Rowan County is the closest area to have had a loss of power for various reasons. So our thoughts are with our neighbors over in Salisbury, Rowan County areas. And Travis has been trying to piecemeal our equipment together, and there's a ghost in it somewhere. He'll have it working great for 5 minutes, and then when it's time to shine, something happens. And I appreciate his efforts. He takes care of it. He takes it personal when they do not work. And I can show you the text messages tonight that he has sent. But I do appreciate him. And as you all know, historically in the past, when they quit working, they're shot for the whole meeting. But Travis was able to get us up and going, and I do appreciate his attention to that. And even though I identified certain staff members, I certainly don't want to forget the rest, because everything we do here is a team effort. It's just at times certain members shine in the spotlight because of various reasons. But I'm thankful for all the town employees. I appreciate the citizens' patience
did fail to mention, I saw Emily going out. First I thought it was a scooter, but looked like she had an assistant with a gun with her, so I'm assuming she's doing okay. Okay. All right, good deal. All right, I'll send her a note. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Stay here.
You're welcome to stay here with Mr. Oxer as he, discuss.
We show pictures?
Oh, yeah.